sir. Okay, you can get it, sir.
Permissions to Thakur Ram Krishna, Janani Sadhana, peace and prayer be unto them, and blessings I beseech of them for me as well. At the outset, I offer my sincere gratitude and thanks to the authorities of this great institution and to the organizers of this seminar for kindly inviting me to be present at the seminar and presenting papers. With the very respectable person for me, who is in the chair, I pay my respect to him. Very senior teachers who are here, like Chakravarti, please accept my pranam. Professor Suviranjan Bhattacharya, and many teachers from different colleges who have come here and joined the seminar, students, scholars, all of you are my gods. I crave indulgence. I crave your indulgence. Please, of course. The organizers of the seminar have asked me to write something on morality, on religion, morality and law. Yes, I have taken all these three elements into consideration, but the title of my paper is different. I have taken all these three elements into consideration and put them into my paper. Religion in the sense of dharma, morality in the sense of pure practical reason, and law in the sense of the dictum of pure principle, pure practical reason, ensuring rights. And the title of my paper is Violence and Peace. It's a very sensitive issue nowadays, so let me, without wasting time, let me try to read it out. Thank you. Please listen to me also. Violence and peace. Every age has its progress, concludes Gibbon at the end of his magnum opus, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. This is for him the historical law. This is true. Also, what is equally true is that every age has its own concern, a peculiar problem of the age itself, by finding a proper solution of which the humankind has to ensure its further progress and pass on to the next stage. At this moment, the highest concern of the human race is the breach of external peace or violence in interpersonal social relations, national as well as international. In the present paper, we shall try to see with the problem and exercise ourselves in finding out ways and means of securing peace and shunning violence. The early age, or what the philosophers sometimes call the state of nature, might be, as Hobbes speculated, a state of incessant war between individuals, families, and tribes. With the establishment of civil state, we no longer have a wholesale war of all against all, a constant irregular raid and plunder of one individual by another individual, but we have the systematic, deliberate war of community against community, of nation against nation, rivalries between nation and nation, bitterness and hatreds, prejudice and misunderstanding, subordinate conflicting interests in view of changing political conditions, and ever-growing international commerce are multiplying with every year, and as war is proposed as the only solution of these conflicts, war has to come. During the preceding century, wars all over the world carried away 86 million people, of which 60 million people died in the World War II alone. 2 million died in the Vietnam War and 3 million in the Korean War. In the Iran-Iraq war between 1980 and 88, a million were killed. Between 1958 to 68, the Great Leap Forward in China killed 20 to 30 million people. The Cultural Revolution launched by Mao Zedong in 1966 killed anything between 15 to 17 million people. In the 70 years after 1917, the Soviet regime killed more than 60 million, of which 20 million were killed in the Stalinist period alone. Since World War II, 25 million people have been killed by their own governments. No less than 10 million people have died since World War II in civil violence. Scientists point out that animals fight, but they do not wage wars. Humans are the only primate who pursue mass killings of their own kind in a planned way. It might even seem that war belongs to the most important of human innovations. War is not, however, the only form of violence. It takes various forms: ideological conflicts, terrorism, pathological forms of nationalism, racial violence, ethnic cleansing, domestic violence, intercultural violence, and so on. There is further the violence done to future generations when the present generation leaves debts behind, inherit to others unbearable burdens. Men also commit violence of unimaginable intensity by abusing the great logos. The Nazis coined the term "annals of the earth" for their gas chambers. The atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945 was named Little Boy, and what more? Is it then that men are programmed to be violent, sadistic, and narcissistic? But once we accept that violence is normal for human beings, that an ethnic clash or nuclear war is due to biological factors beyond our control, we do nothing to prevent war or violence. But the time has come to think over it. Modern science has not only made our life more comfortable than ever before, it has also made killing easier, impersonal, and insensitive. In the changed circumstances, either we live together in peace or die together in conflicts. The choice is between life and death, between peace and conflicts of violence. Evidences collected from various sources suggest that necrophilia, that is, fascination for killing, is not present in man as an inherent tendency. It is an artificial inducement, and we may get into its toxicating effect in the same way as some people get into narcotism. A Soviet soldier remembers his days in Afghanistan. I quote him, "It's frightening and unpleasant to have to kill, you think, but soon you realize killing en masse in a group is exciting, even, and I have seen this myself, fun." A Vietnam veteran admits that he misses the war because he loved it in strange and troubling ways. Another, I quote him, "The hardest part, the part that is hard is to kill, but once you kill, that becomes easier. To kill the next person and the next one and the next one, because I have no feelings, no emotions or nothing, no direction. I just kill. It can happen to anyone." Speaking of a Nazi experience, Christopher Browning, you know his book, says in Ordinary Man, "Once the killing began, however, the man became increasingly brutalized. As a combat, the horrors of the initial encounter became routine, and the killing became progressively easier. In this sense, brutalization was not the cause, but the effect of these people's behavior. Dean Rusk, speaking about the Cuban crisis, said, I quote him, I have met and worked with a good many people whose names are in the history books or in the headlines. I have never met a demigod or Superman. I have only seen relatively ordinary men and women groping to deal with the problems with which they are faced. Heinrich Himmler, along with Hitler, was responsible for the slaughter of between 10 to 15 million unarmed Russians, Poles and Jews. He was not a hater or monster, but merely a dehumanized bureaucrat. He was not a rebel, but he sought to be under a strong man of rabid ideology and turned out to be a veritable monster. In Eric Maria Remarque's On His Quiet in the Western Front, a German soldier asks, now just why would a French blacksmith or a French shoemaker want to attack us? No, it is merely the rulers. Going beyond the rulers, ultimately it is the ideology creators, idea givers that are behind mighty forms of violence. I insist on this. Alexander Solzhenitsyn in the Gulag Archipelago says, I quote him, the imagination and the spiritual strength of Shakespeare's evildoers stopped short at a dozen corpses because they had no ideology. On the contrary, people armed with an ideology of aggressiveness killed millions. Many modern ideologies have justified violence. Marx believed in violent struggle. Darwin taught that the fittest would eliminate the rest. Young people for a few generations have been fed on the thoughts of thinkers like Hegel, Schiller, Marx, Nietzsche, Lenin, Mao, Marcuse, Che Guevara, Arendt, and Gramsci. For them, violent struggle is the sole path towards progress. They look at every human being as a wolf to every other human being. According to Nietzsche, every higher culture began with the conquest by barbarians who had an unbroken strength and lust for power. In Nietzsche's thinking, the concept of struggle must predominate. He says, half the world is weak, sick, and inconstant. That is the half that glories in being weak. Compassionate and humble. In advocating hardness, he rejects pity as unmanly. I quote him, to see others suffer does one good. To make others suffer even more. Without cruelty there is no festival. In the Nazi ideology of wanting to preserve the unmixed Aryan identity led to the excess of World War II. Perpetual peace, says a letter of the great General Count Moltke, is a dream and not a beautiful dream either. War is part of the divine order of the world. During war are developed the noblest virtues which belong to man: courage, self-denial, fidelity to duty, and the spirit of self-sacrifice. The soldier is called upon to risk his life. Without war, the world would sink in materialism. Hegel saw in war an educative instrument, developing virtues in a nation which could not be fully developed otherwise. The war, he held, draws a nation together and leaves it stronger than it was before. In the same way, for Stalin, violence was a necessary part of its revolutionary goal. He said in 1932, Russians may be hungry and short of clothes and comfort, but you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. Once he said to one of his subordinates, I quote him, with the rest of my generation, I firmly believe that the ends justified the means. Our great goal was the universal triumph of communism. and for the sake of that goal, everything was permissible. To lie, to steal, to destroy hundreds of thousands and even millions of people, all those who were hindering our work or who hindered everything we stood for. Mao thought he could afford to lose 300 million in a nuclear war, since the other 300 million Chinese would emerge strong. Ideologies of this kind propagate violence and create man's fascination for killing. But the time has come for us to develop complementary systems of thought. We need not philosophize for peace. We need philosophies for peace. The present development of human civilization is such that external peace seems to be all but essential for the survival of the race. Man no longer live in isolated pockets of the globe. Demand for the necessities of life has reached such a state as that it can be met only if the whole of mankind responds to it as one unit. Thus, any disruption in any human settlement is bound to severely affect the rest of mankind. Moreover, challenges facing the race at this stage of development are such as can be met only if the human one work hand in hand, forgetting all about their racial, cultural, national differences, etc. For example, problems created by depletion of the sources of humanly usable energy in nature, degradation of the global environment, serious imbalances in ecology, etc. are such problems as no nation in isolation is any measure to the task of solving them. Such problems have to be tackled by the entire human race as one unit. In essence, the problems facing the humankind in the 21st century are very different from the problems it faced at any earlier age. Gone are the days when wars were absolutely essential for dispersal of human settlement all over the globe, but now the choice is between living together in peace or dying together in conflicts. Sir, please. We also observe, despite the fact that there is a phenomenal rise in violent conflicts in their new and new forms, people are also getting increasingly worried beyond measure, creating new sense of emergency and compulsion in them for finding ways and means of putting a permanent end to hostilities. The various spheres of economics, law, medicine, science, and trade, commerce, politics, and political economy are more and more getting involved in peace movements. We now hear of many peace societies being formed and peace-loving monarchs and peace-seeking diplomats on their busy schedules, and peace conferences and congresses regularly held. What we wish to assert in such matters of grave concern is that they are not king's men, his diplomats and generals, economists and people of commerce, scientists and engineers, etc., who alone can help. People must listen to the voice of philosophy as well. The practitioners of statecraft work with the belief that the state, despite the fact that it is constituted by individuals, has certain interests of its own over and above those it has to share with individuals. This belief in particular has stood in the way of the realization of the truth that the state is for the individual and not vice versa. If the state is for the individuals, then the political, economic, diplomatic and legal devices that are needed for the establishment of peace within each state and the existing states must conform to the regulative principles of human conduct. And it is for philosophy to work out those regulative principles, for they are basically moral principles, and to deduce the principles of statecraft from them. This we must not be loath to confess. Philosophical ideas alone offer little practical guidance to the practitioners of statecraft, but it is left for us to suggest that practical guidance is of little use unless it has a solid theory to stand upon. With this submission on behalf of philosophy, we would like to present before you for your appreciation and critical evaluation a peace proposal whose elements have been drawn partly from the Mahabharata, partly from Plato's The Republic, and partly from Kant's peace treaty, Zum ewigen Frieden, that is towards perpetual peace. We have with us the greatest epic that the human race has ever produced, the Mahabharata. The mainstream story of the epic is the story of a great battle. The two royal families, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, fought. Princes all over India voluntarily joined one side or the other of the battle and got exterminated. When the battle concluded, it was found that of the many hundred thousands of warriors who joined the battle, only 10 of them had survived. 7 in the Pandava camp and 3 in the Kaurava camp. So, undoubtedly, the Mahabharata is the story of death and destruction of a very big magnitude. Yet the Alankarikas like Anandavardhan have no hesitation to regard the Mahabharata as Sankarasadatta, as a treatise on emancipation and peace. Significantly, the original Mahabharata, the original epic, ended with Santiparva. That means chapter on peace. In between, there are waverings between war and peace, which in essence is best illustrated in the opening chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Immediately before the war was to commence, Arjuna, the chief warrior of the Pandava side, wanted to have a final look at the contingent he would be fighting against. Among his adversaries were the grandsire Bhishma, his preceptors Drona and Kripa, and several other dear and near ones, uncles, brothers, nephews, fathers-in-law, and other kith and kin, people in association with whom one might wish to live and whom you would not wish to kill. Arjuna, of course, knew in advance who his adversaries were, but when he saw them in persons lined up and in readiness for the mortal combat, he developed a deep sense of spiritual crisis in his inner existence. He lost his resolve to fight the battle. Sri Krishna, the main inspiration of the Pandava camp, insisted that Arjuna should engage himself in the battle and there was no point in running away from the battle. Thus followed a debate and a discourse. Arjuna spoke of the terrible social consequences of the war, which is summed up in one expression, Jayate Varna Shankara. He also explained how the tender human emotions like love, affection, respect, etc., which serve as a basis of living family life and other forms of social life would get jeopardized. But Sri Krishna argued that something more fundamental was at stake. The very basis of human living on earth is dharma, or virtue, and the Kauravas had crucified that virtue. By forcibly stripping Draupadi in full view of the dignitaries present in the royal court, the Kauravas had put a question mark if man was any longer man. Thus, there was no alternative before Arjuna but to fight the battle and destroy the Kauravas. Later on, Sri Krishna also explained that in man there is something divine, something immortal to live by, and the laws of dharma are the laws of that divine substance. There is a divine element in man, but man is not entirely holy. He is like an inverted tree, Urdhva Moolam Adharshakam, as the Kathopanishad and also the Bhagavad Gita, whose roots are in the heaven and which flourishes with leaves, flowers and fruits in the muddy earth. Because of the heaviness of earth in which man lives and grows, there may be occasional degeneration of virtue or dharma. In such cases, highly destructive wars may be necessary to clear the elements obstructing human virtue or dharma, and such wars may be regarded as divinely sanctioned wars or dharma yudha, the sole objective of which is the restoration of dharma, dharma punasthapan. And there is no, and where there is dharma, there is peace. As against the dharma yuddha of the Mahabharata, people of the world have witnessed two other types of holy wars: the crusades of the Christians and the jihads of the Muslims. But whereas the dharma yuddha of the Mahabharata is meant for preserving essential human virtue, crusades and jihads are meant for establishing supremacy of one organized religion over other religions, or at least for preserving a religious sect. This is my interpretation, please. We may, of course, consider the religious aspect of war and peace. If only religion is shown to be connected with the essential humanity, that means religion as the religion of man. In this regard, the Mahabharata concept of dharma yuddha seems to us to be more agreeable than that of either the crusades or the jihad. And in our peace proposal, we take one element from the Mahabharata as an article of peace. This is, war is permissible if and only if humanity is at stake. And if only it is seen that war is the only means of restoring humanity to its place, not otherwise. So far, we have talked of war for peace, a sort of a cure of a serious malady. But as the adage goes, prevention is better than cure. And as war is just the opposite of peace, any peace proposal must incorporate those articles, the strict observance of which will ensure that there is no breach of peace, or that there is no loss of virtue in the life of the individual and in the life of the society to which the individual belongs. In this regard, we find that the articles of Plato's ideal society, Politeia, the Republic, are the most suitable ones. Please excuse me. With Plato, we feel sure that any peace proposal must begin with the theory of justice. This is the question: what is justice? It was first raised by Plato. Justice is to be sought for both in the life of a society, that means in the external social relations of man with man, and in the internal lives of individual human beings living in that society. Finally, justice in the earthly life of a man and the society has to be looked upon as an image of the cosmic order or cosmic purpose to which man as part of the cosmos are committed. Please compare the concept of being God. We then ask the metaphysical question, what is man? Or who the man am I? The Kathopanishad and the Bhagavad Gita, as I have already said, say that man is Uttamamulam or Shakam. Both Plato and Kant would agree with this conception of man. Plato distinguished between two realms of being, the unchanging eternal and the evanescent non-eternal. In man, both the elements are there. That means man is a citizen of two worlds. As an eternal being, he is the disembodied soul, but as an earthly creature, he is the soul incarnate. The disembodied soul is pure reason. This reason is akin to, though not the same as, the eternal objects or principles, or as Plato would say, ideas, forms, universals, or essences, which are also archetypes or prototypes of the things of the material world. Reason can intuitively grasp the eternal objects, and in this regard, the principle is life in the life. The difference between soul as pure reason and the eternal objects is that the soul inhabits, but the eternal objects do not. They just are copied by a multitude of mundane and temporal objects. Unlike the eternal forms or ideas, the soul actively lives in a living body in the shape of a human being or a human person. Insofar as the soul comes down to the earth from a transcendent realm and lives in the shape of a human person, it has a commitment or an obligation. It is under obligation to reorganize the world in the image of the good. The good is the highest cosmic principle which is prior to the world, ontologically, epistemologically, as well as morally. In so far as the eternal objects, the ideas of the forms get reflected in the world of change and becoming. They create the ground for cognizability in the objects and cognition of objects in the embodied soul. Morality is just the other side of the knowledge, so much so that virtue is knowledge and knowledge is virtue. To know the good is to be good. Knowingly, one does not act in a way which violates the goodness of the good. For good is the natural object of desire. But is ignorance morally reprehensible? There is a theory, ignorance is bliss, but the theory is otherwise. Yes, it is, if, of course, morality is regarded as a virtue of the society. That means social virtue and individual human virtue are identical. According to nature's design, which too is guided in the good, reason is not equally prominent in all human souls. The parts, elements, or the faculties of the earthly human souls are differently balanced in different human individuals. In this regard, some are gold natures, some are silver natures, and some others are broad natures. Obviously, not all men are capable of acquiring knowledge or wisdom in equal measure, but all need to be virtuous. And those who have not acquired wisdom can yet be virtuous by accepting the authority of those who have wisdom and by following the leadership of the wise in their own life, active lives. For some people, wisdom is the basis of direction. For some others, rational belief or rational faith is the basis of direction. In this way, wisdom may prevail over the whole of the society, provided that the society is organized on the principle of justice and thereby works as one organic body. In a just society, there will be harmony, coordination, and mutual recognition as to who should be lawmakers and executive and who should be engaged in productive activities. All men belonging to all sections of the society are equally just dignified, but no one is the supreme and no one is independent. The society is an organic whole, and justice is the health of the organic body in its unity. I shall have to explain some of the things later. What is more important for the development of a just society is schooling. That's very important. Schooling is very important. And schooling, according to Plato's idea, say, gymnastic for the body, gymnasio for the soma, and music for the soul. But nowadays we tend to forget. We think that primary education is information. We try to give information, but the idea is schooling should be done accordingly, character building education. And then, just summarize, according to Plato's idea, the society should be organized in such ways that in the higher level, those who will give guidance to the society, those who will create the order of the society, there should be Rajarshis. Raja should be Rishi, and the Rishi should be Raja. Rajarshi and philosopher. This is his idea. And there are some other ideas. A state should not be allowed to be too big. It should not be allowed to be too rich. And people should not be condemned to too much of consumerism. These are some of the ideas of Plato, and these are the articles of peace. In my peace proposal, I have incorporated these articles. And then I leave behind Plato. And I give you some idea of Kant's famous peace treaty, that is Zum Ewigen Frieden, or perpetual peace. In perpetual peace, Kant worked out what to be various human rights. And the idea is, why I take Kant into consideration is that Plato spoke of justice of the society. But there are difficulties. You see, there are so many societies, so many states, so many nations, and they may clash. So if there are clashes in between nations, what should be happening? How should we control them? I think the best idea is to consider Kant. So what happened, you see, Hitler advised his people not to read Kant. Don't read. You are not permitted to read Kant's Critique of Practicalism and Perpetual Peace. You will never, because he was an advocate of nationalism, and he had his internationalism. Kant advocated internationalism. In Perpetual Peace, Kant worked out what could be various human rights and prepared the articles of a universal peace treaty on a priori grounds, as following necessarily from the workings of the human subject as pure practical reason. Obviously, his ethical teachings are presupposed in his peace treaty. His ideas of the federation of nations and perpetual peace are political steps of his ethical ideas of kingdom of ends and samavana. He wrote the essay in the form of a treaty to be entered upon by the nations involved in perpetual war. The articles of the treaty show that even though Kant prepared them on a priori ground, he was not entirely blind to the causes of war among nations. However, with regard to the causes of war, he went deeper and found that the causes of war lie very much in man's nature, which also forms part of nature's desire. That man has moral perception, that he experiences moral struggle in his inner life, explains that man is neither all holy nor all beastly. He struggles within himself against his sensuous inclination to listen to the voice of duty, and by listening to the voice of duty, he realizes that he has a higher goal or an ideal to achieve, the ideal being the kingdom of men and the samavana, highest virtue, highest happiness. So I just read out his articles. The articles. In this peace proposal, he set out 9 articles, and 6 of them were incorporated in the at the moment of its formation, gratefully acknowledged this essay of Kant as the highest human document on human peace, on peace. So there are 9 articles. I just read them out. I don't have much time. Possibly I am already crossed.
Please conclude, sir.
So there are 9 articles, and then one of the things there, armies should be benched. This profession, it was first Jonathan Swift, possibly in his belly was trouble, in his foot fight. He went to the land of the wild horses, and there he proposed, and there he also that military, no nation should be allowed to pick military. No military. There are 9 articles on these articles are there, and no one should be allowed to enter into. Everyone should receive hospitality from another nation, but no one should be allowed to disrupt the nation while enjoying the hospitality of the nation. Like this. And overall, he proposed the idea of federation of nations. The nation should have a federation, and the laws should be formed by that federation. But he did not advocate the idea of universal monarchy like the Romans said like that. But no. Federation of nations. Kingdom of men. Everyone is God. Every nation is a God. One nation is God to another nation, like that. His idea. I just want to conclude. Thus far, we have brought to a place and explained the articles of peace by taking elements from the Mahabharata, from Plato's Republic, and from Kant's Perpetual Peace, with the presupposition that the final goal towards which man is striving is peaceful earthly life. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarvesham niramaya is the idea of our human family. But There are philosophers who strongly reject this idea. I have told you about them. I don't want to read them again. However, philosophers like Hegel, Schiller, Moltke, Malthus and others who so eloquently speak of the blessings of war are apt to forget that war is as good, efficient a school for forming vices or virtues, and that moreover those virtues which military life is said to cultivate, courage, self-sacrifice and the rest, can be at least as perfectly developed in other trials. There are in human lives dangers every day bravely met and overcome, which are not less terrible than those that we face the soldier, in whom patriotism may be less a sentiment than a duty, and whose cowardice must be dearly paid. However, before we conclude our peace proposal, we may have yet another submission to make. I make a small submission. The champions of peace, like the authors of the Mahabharata, Plato, Kant, Wilfred, Armin, and others, never say that war in the past was staged for no purpose, that they are all evils, nor do they express the optimism that there will be no more war in the future. In the past, wars were a necessity. It is because of war the human settlements have dispersed all over the globe, and men have learned to depend on others, seeking comfort and solace in their company, and put their selfishness on restraint. Yet there comes a time when negative checks and balances outlive their utilities, and the goal becomes clearly visible. The goal of life is peace emancipated, but that peace will not be gifted to us from outside. We shall have to continuously strive to attain that goal. If all past wars were for peace, and as war and peace are contrary positions, wars must cease to permanently establish the reign of peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Thank you, sir. But I'm sorry to stop you before you wanted to stop. This is a sort of spiritual violence, of course. But I have no option. I think Kant will justify my action. So yesterday we heard about Kant partially in connection with consequentialism. We heard about Kant in connection with phenomenalism and surface theory. Today we have heard about Kant in connection with Mahabharata and Plato's theory. And now we are going to have a full-fledged paper on Kant's categorical imperative from Professor Suleiman. I welcome Professor Suleiman.